I like that. The power of the hush. Welcome to our final Sunday service in 2025. And as the year draws to a close in our final message, we're going to be considering about the biggest topic there is, the meaning of life. It doesn't get much bigger than that. We're talking about truth and meaning and purpose, the meaning in particular of our life on earth. As the preacher of Ecclesiastes calls it, our life under the sun. Before we do that, and before we put our mangers and all that stuff away into the basement or the attic, I want to start with this worship song that is one I just discovered. I didn't know of it before, but sometimes something just moves you to worship. It did for me, it may for you, it may not. I understand how that works. But I think this particular worship song will also prepare us for this evening. But right afterwards, I have 3 microphones in the aisle. And why don't we spend some time after that worship song just coming up for spontaneous worship and praise. Might be real short. It might go longer, so I've designed the service where I could take something out or do something, because I think it's fitting in the fullness of time. And then it goes into this holy, holy, holy. Now later in the service, if there's time, we will have a question and answer, so I'll put this thought in your mind. What is something that you've pursued for meaning, purpose, or fulfillment that in the end didn't satisfy? And whether we do our typical Q&A and pass around microphones or not, we'll see at what time allows. But to have that thought in our head, some of us with whiter hair have lived longer and could probably list things we chased after, we pursued, and they came up empty. I think that'll help us for this evening. Let's worship by watching this video song. The idea of seeking for the meaning of life and finding purpose, it is, as I said earlier, as universal as it gets. It's not something that is merely for the philosopher or the theologian. You'll find it in every time, in every place, in every culture, in every country. You'll find it in villages far away. You'll find it in bustling cities. You'll find it everywhere. You'll find it reflected in every art form, in every medium. Authors, poets, playwrights, painters. It abounds with it. Indulge me for a couple minutes while I share just a few examples of this in literature, one of my passions. I got to watch As You Like It, the Shakespearean play. Laurence Olivier played the main role. I got to do that over vacation. I don't know if anyone else would be interested in doing that, but the old English lit major in me just loved it and soaked up every minute of it. It was just great. I wasn't thinking about church responsibilities, although it was kind of connected to this. I wasn't thinking about school stuff. I just watched it and enjoyed probably you would call it a former passion. But in that, As You Like It, there's a scene when the elder duke, who's been banished to the forest, and he has his court around him while the younger duke has taken over. And one of the characters in his court, named Jacques, delivers this famous monologue. You've probably heard it referred to. It starts this way: all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his ages being 7. And then it goes on. I won't read the whole monologue, but he describes the infant mewling and puking in the nurse's arms. Isn't that lovely? The whining schoolboy creeping like a snail unwillingly to school. The lover sighing like a furnace, the soldier sudden and quick in quarrel, and he goes on to the justice. And then the old man and his final days, and an equally famous part of this monologue is the last part, last scene of all, that ends this strange, eventful history, is second childishness and mere oblivion. Sans without. Sans teeth, sans eyes, sans taste, sans everything. Sticking with Shakespeare, many of us studied Macbeth in high school. I taught it for many years. It's my favorite of Shakespeare's tragedies. And there's that famous scene when this ambitious Macbeth, who is trying to ascend to the throne, and his more ambitious wife, Lady Macbeth, has just died. And he comes on with this famous soliloquy, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, creeps in its petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player who struts and frets his hour upon a stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Laurence Olivier, I am not. But the point in both of those is to take the span of one's life, the meaning and purpose, and to conclude that it's empty. Vanity of vanities. Many have studied that famous poem by Shelley. It's a sonnet, Ozymandias, and it kind of describes this trunks of legs standing in the desert, and the rest of the statue is gone. The face is half sunk in the sand, and as you look at the face of that, you could kind of tell it says that the sculptor well those passions read and got the sneer of his frown and that kind of thing, and it describes it. And then it comes to this: there's still an engraving on the base of it that says, "My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair." Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. One example after another. Here's this mighty king, must have certainly had a kingdom all around him, but time took away about all of it, and nothing remains. Vanity. Moving from the poet and the playwright, let's go to a series of paintings. I don't know if any of you have ever seen Thomas Cole's The Voyage of Life. It's a series of paintings. You can find it, I suppose it's still there, down in the Museum of Art there. In this little octagonal room, there are these 4 paintings. And they chronicle the life of a man from his earliest days to his last. And you could actually see it goes from childhood to youth to manhood into old age. It's a wonderful set of paintings. He was known as a landscapist, but then he moved beyond that. One of the early American painters that really elevated that art form in the United States, masterful painter. He called the first painting Childhood. And in the painting you see this beautifully ornamented boat, and it's emerging from a cave, from the earth, as it were. It's springtime. A sunrise scene abounds in beauty. The flowers there are huge, and it's verdant as can be. But our eyes are drawn to the boat there, and as we look at it a little more closely, we see an angel representing the divine, steering with one hand while his other hovers over the child. Prayer, protection, blessing. It really is a magnificent scene full of promise, full of joy, full of optimism and of hope. Look closely at the masthead. We'll go a little closer and see there's an hourglass All the sands are in the upper chamber. Life is just beginning, and it looks wonderful, with the promise of long life ahead. The second painting we look at is youth. If you were in that octagonal room and you would be following them, seeing the story, when you look at the painting of youth, but wait, the angel is now on the shore, and the young man, sure of himself, is steering the vessel himself. The river immediately before him is calm, and at first glance it appears to be heading to that beautiful scene in the sky. In fact, the art form of line is used, to the line of trees on both sides. Just draw your eyes down that placid river to that scene. But when you look more closely, you see, wait, at the end it doesn't go straight to that scene, but it turns rather sharply. And if we were able to get even closer, we'd see in the gap of the trees that the river bends and goes that way, and the current, the rapids, are intensifying there, and so it foreshadows. But there he is, going out on his own, steering the boat as the sands begin to accumulate in the lower chamber. And like the preacher of Ecclesiastes, I just want to call out to him, remember now thy Creator in the time of thy youth. But I don't think he'll hear, because his back is to the divine. And he's going forward out on his own. If you go to the third painting in manhood, you see that he has made that bend, been caught in the rapids. And the torrents and terrors of life have started to intrude themselves in his lives. You see the sky and the storm. If you could go up closer and see those clouds in the dark sky, you would see these menacing faces. And you see the angel, though, far behind him in just a little part of the sky that opens up. The rest is dark. The angel is now far behind, for the man had not needed that help of the divine for a long time. The stormy season is not past, though. If you look in the painting, the worst is yet to come. The rapids and the rocks show that he's got a whole lot more to deal with. It tells us that he's not only hopeless, but helpless. If you look at that, you'll find out the rudder is gone. It's not even there. The sands of time are pouring into the lower chamber. Time marches on. Life progresses. And he's now in desperate situation. If you were to look closely at the painting, he has his hands clasped in the universal gesture of prayer. Isn't that just a wonderful form of art? And you look at that and we wonder, what will come of him? Rudderless, helpless. But he turns to God in prayer. And in the fourth and final of the paintings, as you look at it, old age, it appears that the man's desperate prayers have been heard, and an angel has come to his aid. And once again, using the artistic element of line, you could see everything about it. Now pointing, the angel has now come to him, and both his hands and the dip of his wing point to that glorious place in the sky. And if we could look more closely at the sky, you would see another angel and many more even behind it. And he's pointed to it. The series of the painting is called The Voyage of Life. Our message tonight as we close this year, because we kind of do measure in years, we attach significance to that. Ours would be the voyage of life, vanity or victory. An angel has come and points him upward, homeward, to another angel, and many more in the background. I wonder if the angel said something like this: turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full in his wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim, for everything around there has grown dim now. And all our attention is pointed by that angel to the divine. Will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. The question is whether our voyage of life from childhood to youth to adulthood to old age will be one of vanity or victory. Now let's hear the words of the preacher. Mike is going to come and he's going to read for us from Ecclesiastes, the first chapter, the first 9 verses, and then all the way to the last chapter, the whole chapter. Let's take the highest art form, an inspired scripture, and consider this further.
Ecclesiastes 1. The words of the preacher, the son of David, the king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities. All is vanity. What does a man gain by all the toil at which he toils under the sun? A generation goes, a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises, the sun goes down, and it hastens back to the place where it rises. The wind blows to the south, and it goes around to the north, and around goes the wind, and on its circuits the wind returns. All the streams run into the sea, but the sea is not full. To the place where the streams flow, there they flow again. All things are full of weariness. A man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor is the ear filled with hearing. What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. And then Ecclesiastes 12, verse 1. Remember also your Creator in the days of your youth, before the evil days come and the years draw near, of which you will say, I have no pleasure in them. Before the sun and the light and the moon and the stars are darkened and the clouds return after the rain. In the days where the keepers of the house tremble and the strong men are bent and the grinders cease because they are few and those who look through those windows are dimmed. And the doors on the street are shut when the sound of the grinding is low and one rises up at the sound of a bird. And all the daughters of song are brought low. They are afraid also of what is high, and terrors are in the way. The almond tree blossoms, the grasshopper drags itself along, and desire fails, because man is going to his eternal home, and the mourners go about the streets. Before the silver cord is snapped, or the golden bow is broken, or the pitcher is shattered at the fountain, or the wheel is broken at the cistern, and the dust returns to the earth as it was, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. All is vanity. Besides being wise, the preacher also taught the people knowledge, weighing and studying and arranging many proverbs with great care. The preacher sought to find words of delight, and uprightly he wrote words of truth. The words of the wise are like goads, and like nails firmly fixed are the collected sayings. They are given by one shepherd. My son, beware of anything beyond these. Of making of many books there is no end, and much study is a weariness of the flesh. This is the end of the matter. All has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every deed into judgment with every secret thing, whether good or evil.
In what we call the wisdom literature or the poetry wisdom books of the Bible, we find this enigmatic book of Ecclesiastes. Truly, it's a very challenging book. It's often mistaught, mispreached, misapplied. So much so that even one particular aberrant religion takes a verse out of Ecclesiastes 9 and builds a whole doctrine of soul sleep around it, not recognizing the context that we'll talk about in a minute of being under the sun. The long-standing tradition is that Solomon wrote this book, although many modern scholars question it, and I found some merit to the things I've been reading over the last couple weeks. But in the end, it's not important whether the book is Solomonic in its voice or in its pen. Its authority is unchanged, and its message equally relevant. You see, friends, it is very important, not just at the end of a year that we get a little extra reflective, but that we live reflectively, constantly reminding ourselves of what is truth. We heard about that this morning, and what is meaning, and what is purpose, and how are we to live under the sun here on the earth, and what that all means. I would say this, that the message is particularly important in our postmodern world. When Pastor Walker was preaching this morning and he got into that, I was like, whoa, did he read my notes? He didn't, but we both had this postmodernism emphasis. You see, for centuries, actually millennia, the world was what we now call pre-modern. Truth, meaning, and purpose were clearly defined and revealed by God. Period. That was the worldview. But when the Renaissance and scientific revolution and Enlightenment came in the 15th, 16th, 17th centuries, it moved from pre-modern to what came to be called modernism. And there, truth is discovered. You discover truth through science and reason. So pre-modern, different than modernism. But when the 20th century came and its world wars and Holocaust and atomic bombs, there was a shift again from not pre-modern, not modern, but what we call postmodernism. In fact, now we're so far into postmodernism that as I was reading, I was seeing late postmodernism, post-postmodernism, meta-modernism, these different terms to try to say that we have pushed so far to defining truth subjectively and emotionally, constructing our own truth. We heard about that this morning and the 5 lies of postmodernism and that kind of thing. But you see what this ancient book does in a most unique way is it deconstructs all of those constructs that would be used to find meaning and define purpose in our lives. We need to know truth as revealed by God through His Word. We need to know our purpose as defined by God. And so we need a book like this that says, this preacher, Kohelet, this gatherer of people to listen to his message, is going to do an experiment. And in his experiment, he's going to consider every pursuit under the sun with one constant. We won't look above the sun. We will consider it all under the sun, life here on earth. It's a very important book for us to look at. It deconstructs those things. It opens with these words, the words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. If we're going to understand the book properly and read it both as literature, which it is, we need to distinguish between the author, I'll say author/narrator, and the main character. Because in the first verse, this author or narrator introduces us to the main character, preacher. the gatherer who's delivering his message. And the whole book, all the way through the 12th chapter to the 8th verse, will be this preacher who's going to do experiment after experiment after experiment to try to find meaning and purpose in his life. And he's going to conclude every time, vanity. It's all vanity. It's all empty. It's all meaningless. Hevel is the word. But that even is not enough. You see, things are always lost in translation. You can't just decode from one language to another and get the full sense. It just doesn't work that way. And so, vanity, meaninglessness, yes, they're a big part of it, but the word hevel means smoke, mist, vapor, and all these things that look like they have substance that you could grab a hold of and find your purpose and find your drive and your meaning. It's like grasping at the smoke. It's like getting the vapor. It's like when I play with the granddaughters with the bubbles. That is just so fun. I mean, they just chase after him and chase after him and chase after him. It's like they're convinced they're going to catch one of them and bring it back to me. And you ever see when they get that bubble and it stays on their hand for like a fraction of a second and they feel like they arrived? Papa, Papa. It's kind of like that. And you say, well, we know that. We're Christians. We get that. We don't chase after that. Oh, yes, we do. So many Christians get off course and we get thrown into one thing or another. It means vapor, mist, or smoke. It not only talks about vanity and emptiness, it talks about things that are temporary and fleeting, things that are puzzling, things that are paradoxical. And you say, well, no, I know about Ecclesiastes. We've heard sermons on it. We've preached on it. We know that's like Solomon chasing after women and wine and wealth for selfish reasons. And we sometimes take Ecclesiastes like it's a little morality play. Oh no, it's so much more than that. It really isn't that at all. It is true, if hedonism is your drive, if that is what you're pursuing, you will come up empty. You will say, vanity of vanity. I tried, and for every time I tried to pursue pleasure and entertainment, I tried to grab onto it as a lifestyle. It's wonderful to have times of recreation, isn't it? I'm enjoying the break. I liked sitting there. I know, call me weird, but I liked sitting there watching that old movie with Laurence Olivier. I mean, that was a total break. I like that, but if that's the pursuit of our life, if we live for the weekend, if we live for the vacation, if it's all about pursuit of pleasure and avoidance of pain, that, yes, of course that comes up empty. But it's much more than that. Things that are good, noble, honorable, moral, we're also told, because as the Kohelet, as the preacher, went about doing experiment after experiment. In fact, you find it right there in verse 3 of the first chapter. What does man gain by all the toil at which he toils under the sun? He'll come back to that. That's like one of the themes. It'll keep coming back in the book. He'll keep talking about throwing yourself into work. So the one who throws himself into his career, who makes his mark, it's all about work, and there's no balance in his career. And then they hit retirement, and it's like, huh? Vanity. It's empty. In fact, we need to live our lives every day and say, am I drifting toward this thing, this pursuit, absorbing everything I have, when really I need to pursue Him and not it? So we need this book. We would be foolish to take this book and derive doctrine from it, because the perspective of it is life under the sun. We would find that we could take sections of Ecclesiastes and pull that out and find little gems of wisdom. Oh yes, this is true, this is good, because there is wisdom for navigating life even under the sun, and it is there in the book. You'll find things in this book about vanity, and you'll find this phrase under the sun. If the word vanity, hevel, shows up 38 times, the phrase under the sun shows up 29 times. And then a few more like it, I think 3 times under heaven and 1 time upon the earth, all with the same thought. This life under the sun excludes God's. But you say, wait a minute, I've read Ecclesiastes, I've read that book, and God is mentioned there. We even read it, remember now thy Creator in the days of their youth. He makes a lot of reference to God. He does 40 times. Always Elohim. Always that general term for God, that impersonal. It's never Yahweh, it's never Jehovah, it's never his covenant name, it's never his redeeming name. It's never the God of promise. It's always God out there. And yes, whatever you have on earth in enjoyment, take it as a gift of God. The term gift of God is used there twice, and the concept 6 times throughout the book. But it's not the gift of God as we know it. The gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ. It's the things you have under the sun. It's always limited to that perspective. And we would be fools to think that we're not susceptible to that mindset ourselves, even as Christians. We could refer to God, we can go to church, we could even say prayers and have some devotions, but not have our affections set on things above so much that it's our heartbeat, so much that it eclipses everything on earth. And I don't find meaning in my work because I'm going to work hard and do a good job and receive accolades or notice. I put my hand to the plow and work as worship to Him. And if that takes me to a point where I'm no longer pursuing Him, but I'm pursuing it, I'm off. And I need to come back to that place of worship. You'll find not only hevel, vanity, and under the sun, you'll find time and death keep coming up. They frame a mindset. You've only got so much time. The earth is going to keep going. We read that just in the first verses. It's going to keep going, but your days are numbered, and death is coming. Young ones, remember your Creator now, because you're going to get old. Maybe we'll have time to look at the magnificent poetry. Mike wanted to unpackage that. When he was reading it, he even texted me, oh, should I do this in another version where they explain it? I said, no, stick with the ESV. I didn't share my notes with him. But time and death. It is better to be in the house of mourning. Because the whole book is about life under the sun on earth. The whole book is that dash on the gravestone between the day of birth and the day of death. How do I find meaning, purpose? How do I know truth in that dash? We need the book of Ecclesiastes. We need to read of those things that fail to satisfy. We need to see, good things work. Wisdom, study, education, even those great things are presented under the sun. They come up empty. For we need to know life above the sun. Or as I heard one preacher say, under the sun. We need to see how all of those things of earth are deconstructed. So now let's go to that 12th chapter where we're going to actually come to 2 conclusions. Let's hear the end of it. It says when the author/narrator enters the picture in verse 9. But before that, we look in the earlier part of the chapter when this preacher, every time we say preacher, though, it sounds like we're talking about a preacher of the gospel. This is someone just delivering a message. Some translations say teacher. It's that word we've used a couple times, that kohelet, that gather. We've heard him say, this thing is vanity, and this thing is vanity, and this thing is vanity, and this thing comes up empty. And he kind of comes to his concluding portion in the beginning. Remember also your Creator in the days of your youth. For anyone to get on their boat and grab the rudder themselves and charge out while he is back on the shore is not heeding this. Remember also your Creator in the days of your youth. Now, this doesn't mean we who are older can turn it off now because, okay, he's talking to the youth. This applies to every one of us. To remember him. Now, you're going to find that God is presented in Ecclesiastes until the author introduces himself back into the book and says the one shepherd. Before that, it's always God is creator in the beginning and judge at the end. But we don't find him intimate and involved. Transcendent, yes. Immanent, not so much. Remember also your Creator in the days of your youth, before the evil days come and the years draw near, of which you will say, I have no pleasure in them. Before the sun and the light and the moon and the stars are darkened and the clouds return after the rain. In the days, and Mike was dramatizing this, when the keepers of the house tremble. Now this whole metaphor is going to go on, talking about the person in this language, the arms, and the strong men are bent. I've read different interpretations of this, perhaps meaning the legs, perhaps meaning the shoulders. Arms tremble and the shoulders are bent, or whether it's the legs bow. Whatever it is, you find this rich poetic language saying, while you have strength, remember him. I would say it this way, pursue him. It's not something for the older person, it's for the every person. And the grinders cease because they are few, the teeth. And those who look through the windows are dimmed, the eyes. And the doors of the street are shut, probably the lips and the mouth. And the sound of the grinding is low. And one rises up at the sound of a bird, and all the daughters of song are brought low. That's hearing, as your hearing is going. They are afraid also of what is high, and terror is in the way. As the older you get, the more scared you get of certain things. Afraid of falling, afraid of stumbling and hurting yourself. I'll tell you one thing, I drove differently at 20 than I do at 60. Can anyone relate? When I had that Plymouth Fury 3 with a 404 under the hood, and I had the Fuzzbuster, I haven't heard that term in a long time. Oh, that thing was great. I could easily exceed 120 in that thing. Late at night, I worked pumping gas on the turnpike, and I had that drive home, and it's just straight. Woo, that was fun. I don't recommend that, young people. And I'd be flying, and that thing would go, beep, 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 beep. And you'd see how I'd slow down to whatever it was back then, 55 or 65. You wouldn't catch me dead going 120 miles per hour now. The older I get, the slower I go. And my kids and grandkids can make fun of me all they want. Remember now, when the almond tree blossoms, that's the white hair, the grasshopper drags itself along, the grasshopper with its bent legs and its bottom getting lower. Remember when you're young. Remember now, don't enter into 2026 with same old, with forgetting to reflect and evaluate. And it goes on, and I won't read the rest of them where it talks probably about the spine and the skull and the lungs, because we want to get to these final thoughts. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher, all is vanity. It's the final words, the preacher says, and it matches to the first words. He says, life under the sun when you take the experiment and the constant and you remove all concept of above the sun, ends up empty. And we don't want to be functionally under the sun people. In our mindset, in our endeavors, in our energies. We don't want to have so much amusement, amuse, not think, and entertainment. We don't want to have so much activity. This is a danger of the ministry. I'm looking around at people who are busy in the ministry, busy teachers, people involved in all kinds of ministry, and you can get so busy in the ministry that you don't have time for that reflection. Am I pursuing Him? Do I know my purpose? Do I understand the meaning of this life? Is far above that. And so the author returns. Besides being wise, the preacher also taught the people knowledge, weighing and studying and arranging many proverbs with care. He sought to find words of delight, and uprightly he wrote words of truth. So he's giving this case for the wisdom literature, and he's given the case particularly for this wisdom literature. This book is of value in that it presents a perspective that we need to be aware of. And he says, the words of the wise are like goads and like nails. It's a lovely thought there, poignant thought. Goads, that pointy stick at the end perhaps of the staff, a spur to goad you on, to poke you. It's uncomfortable, can even be painful, but the words of the wise do that. Yes, I will keep intruding death into this narrative. Yes, I will say it again and again. Vanity, 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 vanity. Hevel, hevel, hevel. I'll keep poking and prodding you so that you'll say, where do I look to find meaning? The goads, they pierce rather than placating. But the nails, probably speaking to those big tent pegs to hold down the pegs, they anchor us. It's so interesting that he uses this image because we've just heard a 12-chapter message from the preacher of all those things you can't nail down. Try to nail it down. Nail down career being the source of fulfillment. And come to the end of it empty. Try to nail down pleasure. Try to nail down study and degrees and educate, whatever it is, you try to nail it down as I found the thing to give me meaning and purpose and satisfaction. And you've never met someone at their deathbed who would say, boy, if I had just worked harder at my career, I'd be more ready for this. Who threw them in? Will we have trivial pursuits or triumphant pursuits? But then in the end of verse 11, it says, given by one shepherd. At last, a term that's pastoral, a term that's personal, a reference to that one shepherd who would give this for us. Finally referencing in that personal and pastoral way, in this bleak book about the vanity of life apart from God, under the sun, we are pointed to the one who is above the sun, the Son of God, who would come and dwell with us under the sun. Emmanuel, holy, holy, holy. Pursue him, not it. And as you do, and as you navigate life under the S-U-N, be sure that you navigate it under the capital S-O-N. How? Fear God, keep his commandments. That's the end of all matter. In this voyage of life, you can only know vanity, or you can know victory. It's a matter of perspective. What will your voyage look like in 2026? Our closing song for tonight, and then we'll dismiss afterwards, is called Almost Home. It's another reflective song. I'm under the sun in this life, but I'm almost home.